what we tell our kids, what we tell our employees, what we tell our coworkers, what we tell our wives, anybody that we're having an interaction with and speaking to, it has the power of life or death. All right, welcome back to The Uncomfortable Truth. We are on episode number 1,297,314. Actually,
you got that right.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you can get all those numbers right.
I knew that it was close to that,
Yeah.
so I just took a wild guess, and turns out I was right on the money. Hey, don't forget to subscribe, follow, TikTok, YouTube's our long form. These long form podcasts are on YouTube.
We've got some great guests coming up,
Yes,
by the
we
way.
do.
So we've got a good lineup for the next 6 to 8 weeks of some of these guys you might actually know. You might actually seen their stuff before, so it's pretty exciting.
We're just going to dig into a little topic that's kind of been on my heart lately, which is how to create or keep from creating a positive or negative culture in whatever realm of life that you're in. As Christians, God calls us as men to be the spiritual leaders of our home. It talks about that in the Bible. In several different books of the Bible, Paul talks about it in 1 Corinthians and in Ephesians. It's talked about in 1 Timothy about how we are to be the head of the home. We're to be the spiritual leaders in our home. And so leadership is a big part of being a kingdom man. Whether you are a leader in your home, whether you're a leader in your church, whether you're a leader in your business, being a leader is something that we're called to do in one capacity or another. You may not have you may not be the boss at your job and maybe feel like that you're not necessarily in a leadership role, but that doesn't mean that you can't have a positive impact, for people wherever you're at. And so, I wanted to talk about that and talk about, what we feel like are maybe things that keep leaders from being impactful and being able to create a positive culture within that environment that they're in. And what are the things that we feel like are things that leaders do in order to create a really amazing culture in, again, whether it be their families, the family environment, or their business, or what have you. And so, the Bible talks about how it was in, let me see when I think of, what do you guys think about, before I kick off there, like, when you think about good leaders, what do you think about?
I saw a short this morning or yesterday. Dan Martell said, if you want to get what you want, you got to help other people get what they want. So if you want to be a great soccer player, go help kids younger than you and teach them soccer. If you want to be a great podcast editor, work on other people's podcasts and teach them how to do it. I think you can boil some traits down, but I believe that being a great leader correlates with being selfless.
100%. So from an entrepreneurial, standpoint, I automatically think about like PR. I think about like what people do in order to kind of draw people in. They'll have cookouts. They'll go and, entertain and try to create that positive environment. And more often than not, you are serving and loving people whenever you're doing that. But you can also bring that in and draw that into your household and your family and your most inner circle, whether it's, having a get-together at your house or playing cards or cooking hamburgers for everybody or having a swimming pool party. I think those are all things that create a very positive, family-oriented environment where you can show people that you love them, and then also create a culture and memories that are lasting.
Who on the flip side of that, who wants to work for somebody that they don't like, trust, that they don't feel like they are respected? Do you give your best effort to somebody who makes you feel less than?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, there's no chance.
So we need to be different,
Yeah,
right?
we got to be the opposite of everything that you just said. Let's start kind of in the home. You know, I want to see, just because I feel like, hey, that's our number one job right now as fathers, right? As leaders of our family, is raising our children, right? Along with being good husbands, and
Yeah.
but all of that encompasses. Most people, you don't think about the culture of your home. You think about do I have a good culture at my business? Does this football team have a good culture? Does this sporting, you think about the culture in those realms, but you don't hear about people talking about the culture of our home,
Which is honestly, like you were saying, the very most important culture that we need to create.
100%. And so I think you both hit the nail on the head in my eyes. I go back to, in the verse that I was going to read, very short, Mark 10:45, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. Jesus came to serve. He came from heaven as the God of the universe to serve us. And we there, I mean, so many people develop this worldly view of like desiring to be served and wanting, maybe building themselves up to be this person that deserves or has earned servantry, and it's just crazy to me. And then I think about our kids, and I think about the impact, the psychological impact that we could potentially negatively have by not having a positive, loving, selfless, putting others second type culture in our homes, and how our kids are going to potentially have their minds, just skewed by not having a great culture in the house, and so it's like we talk about entitlement on the podcast. We talk about just ways that not just our children, but everyone, the world is bleeding into us to do everything counterproductive to what the Bible teaches us, which is being selfless servants. And I just think about what a disservice that we could potentially have on our families if we're not acting out the way that Jesus came to act out and be an example in our lives for how we're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's an actively and intentionally, consistently doing those things that the Bible talks about, like in the walk with Jesus. I think serving. I go back and forth with this, like serving. I want to serve my wife, like unconditionally. I want to serve my kids too, but not to the level that they get an entitlement feeling. So I'll give you an example.
Just to the level that they understand that serving is important.
That's right. That they know that I love them, and here's what I'm willing to do for you. The other day, we have a pile of laundry on our couch, and it's a pretty big couch, and this couch is full. It feels like every piece of clothing in our house is on this couch. They've all been washed.
Yeah.
They haven't been folded and put away. Been sitting there for about a week and adding to it, right? So Courtney's doing the laundry, and we're all just walking past it. And I don't know, Sunday rolls around, Monday. It's Monday. It rolls around and it's still there. And Courtney's like, everybody's home tonight. Let's sit here and have a folding party. Or actually at dinner, this is what happened. This is better. At dinner, we're talking about best parts of our day, and then we're getting to the conversation. All the kids are there, and Mom says something about folding laundry, and Miller perks up and is like, don't ask Dad to do it. I'm like, what? She said, the last time we had a bunch of laundry, you told us to do it. You said you would help, and you went back in your room and did whatever you were going to do, and we folded the laundry. It's like, okay. It's like, what's your point? It's like, well, you were supposed to be in there helping us. And I'm like, I don't remember if it went down like that or not. So I said, well, you guys, first of all,
let's back up here.
First of all, when a kid, I took it like I didn't get mad about it,
Sure.
but I was like, and then my two boys jumped in too. So it was like, yeah, Dad, like, what the heck? It's like, I was like, the way to get me to do something, first of all, is not by
Telling me to do it.
That's right. Ask me. So now I'm not going to do it. Tonight, you guys can handle the laundry. And so I was pretty dead set on that. I went back and I was using the restroom, and Courtney comes in there and she's like, why don't you fold the laundry? And I was like, because you and I both, and this is going to sound like I'm justifying my position, so you dads out there can chime in if you want to, or wives. I said, first of all, I don't want our kids to feel entitled. I said, you and I work our butts off to take care of them. So if we ask them to fold the laundry and we're not going to help them, then they need to do that. We do so many things for them. And she's like, I don't really agree with that. I think you need to do what you want them to do to show them. And I said, we both do that on a regular basis. Sometimes they just need to pull their weight. And I feel very strongly about that.
Right.
However, baby, if you want me to do the laundry, I'll do it for you. And I'll be happy about it. Right. She said, I want you to do the laundry. I said, okay. And if you know anything about our marriage, that was a huge moment. That was a huge moment for her to say, I don't need you to do it for the reason that I want you to do it for. Can you just do it for me?
Yeah.
And for me to say, I'm okay just doing it for you because I love you and I will serve you to that level, but our kids can handle the responsibilities.
That's an awesome story, by the way. But
I don't know how that came across as like this
try that on my wife.
righteous, indignant sucker who won't fold the laundry, you know?
When I think about culture and I think about leadership, and a couple of guys that I think about are Robbie Schultz and Chris Gordy, because those guys are some of the hardest working guys that I know. And every time, if they have any kind of anything, whether it's their business or they have an event or they invite people over for a get together, these guys are stepping over you to grab the mop, to take out the trash, and they're the ones, and they're the owners of these businesses and in these, whether it's their beautiful home or whatever it may be, but they want to make sure that everybody in the culture in this entire place is solid and everybody's having a good time. And so these are leaders that lead by example, and they're also successful in the eyes of the world. But more importantly, they're God-fearing men.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting just to see how important, as the leaders of our own household and of our own families, it's interesting just to see that and how these people lead by example. And at the end of the day, I believe that we need to be doing that in our own homes 100% of the time.
Where does the line of, I'm going to separate spouse from kids. Where do you guys think the line is from serving and enabling your children?
I think that you probably need to lean into them seeing you serve in the community, in your church, and serving your family, maybe not necessarily or specifically your kids, but serving your wife, I think they're going to learn this how to serve by seeing dad do those things more so than serving them. I think that if you get too deep into a serving them, that's when you risk possibly them getting entitled. And so it's very important to all three of us. I know that because I know you guys very well, to not raise entitled kids. And so we want our kids to know that they need to work and that they're going to have to work for anything that they ever desire to achieve for the rest of their life. And it's only going to get harder. And so we know, I feel like that the line is, let's lean more into showing them how to serve others than maybe serving them. But
I think if you think about, I just thought about two words. I want you to get back to what you're saying. Serving and saving them. Serving your kids and saving them are two different things. I think there's scenarios where we save our kids that we don't need to. Kid forgets their backpack and their lunch. I'm not taking it. There may be once or twice that Courtney has done it and she'll explain, this is grace. I love you. I'm not going to continue to do this. You need to learn through it. Or, forgetting your cleats on when you have a softball game. I reminded you this morning, or I forgot to put my jacket on and it's cold outside. Well, I told you before we left the house to grab your jacket. We're not going back to the house. You can be cold so that next time. That would be saving.
Right.
I think serving may be a little bit different. Maybe a lot different. And ways that we can serve our kids are, maybe we can get to some examples later, but you were saying something.
Well, I was just saying that again, thinking about culture, just thinking about the positive cultures that I've been in, that I feel helped shape me. I think about speaking life into people. I think about people speaking life into me and making me feel capable, making me feel confident. And I think that it's so important that we speak life into our kids. I feel like that needs to be a very large part of our culture at home, is speaking life into our kids. I think that they're being raised in a generation of a level of comparison, and that is at its heightened state of the world. I don't know that the world's ever really been in a more heightened state of comparison, and so our kids are living actively in that and comparing themselves to everyone's highlight reel around them. And if we're not speaking life into them at home every day, regularly, I feel like that we are potentially
missing the boat.
Just missing it. Yeah, just missing it.
Yeah, if we're not doing those things constantly, because kids need constant reminders. We're old enough to realize that that's not reality, that what we see on social media, for the most part, I think social media has, it's not always someone's highlight reel, but you got these super negative things mixed in as well. So you have highlight reel feeds, you have I'm negative all the time feeds, and you have some like real.
Sure.
And a mix of that is reality, but it's a very, very minimal mix.
It is. It's a mix. It's most of it is not reality. Most of it is a perspective based on someone posting a filtered pic of them, and then you go meet them on the Match.com date, and they look like a different person.
My kids, we were we were talking about somebody the other day, and I'm not going to give any specifics, but my kids are like, "Yeah, I know her. I see her." It was an, probably late 30s, early 40s lady that they were talking about that they knew. And Courtney's like, "Are you sure?" And Courtney pulls up her Facebook and shows a picture, and they're like, "That's not her." And she said, "Yes, it is." She said, "Are you thinking of this person?" And they said, "Yes." And she described them. And then she shows the picture again, and they flip
Not
into the
her.
picture. My boys are like, "That is not her." Courtney says, "That is her."
I mean, that's just
got- yeah.
that's the world we're living in.
Yeah.
And I think about, we were driving down the road headed to school this week. They had the kids had state testing this week. I think they wrapped up their state STAR testing this week, and Addie was excited that she was done with her last test. And I said, "Do you think that I care how well you do on a STAR test, or how, if you make all A's?" And she said, "No, I don't think you do." And in my mind, I was thinking, win. I was thinking, that's a win,
Yeah.
And she was like, I said, why do you think that? Why do you think that I don't care of what your grades are? And she said, "Well, I think that you care and you want me to try my best." And I said, 100%. And I said, "But what do you think that, I do care about? Like, what is something that really," she was like, "You care about how I treat people." And I said, 100%. And I'm like, I want my kids to know that at the end of the day, sure, I would love for them to make good grades, but it's more important to me that they desire to just do good at anything that they set their minds to. If they're going to do it, I want them to do their best. If they don't do well at it, Dad still loves you and is going to encourage you to maybe do something else that you feel like you can be better at, and or work harder in the arena that you really want to, if this is something that you really want to do. And she was just like, "Yeah, I feel like that you just want me to, you're more concerned with me being a good person." And I said, "Addie, I'm so excited that you know that, and that I don't have to like overcome that right now, because it's something that I feel very passionately about. And I want you to know that if you made all B's, I would be just as proud of you as if you made all A's."
Yeah.
And the most important thing to me is that whenever I meet somebody that might be given a character witness for you, that they tell me that you're always encouraging, that you are just a light in the classroom. And, I'm like, "Baby, I just want you to be happy and shine Jesus's light to where other people look at you and they think, that girl's different."
Yeah.
Not because you make all A's.
What's that light coming off of her?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I got to find this out.
And she knew on the way to go take a STAR test at an anxious moment. These kids are so anxious. And
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
And so
They scare them, the kiddos, and I don't know if the
I don't
STAR
think
test,
it's intentional.
No.
I don't think the teachers intentionally do it, but
Yeah.
the kids pick it up, man. And they're so
Yeah.
stressed and
Talk
anxious.
about a depressing culture. Whenever your kids are saying, "I need you to pray for me for the STAR test tomorrow." I mean, I'm like, seriously?
I had one that would almost throw up a
Yeah.
couple years ago before STAR test. It was, it's tough. Thinking about that and that big win, that's a dub, dude. You want your kids to see that kid in the hallway that is lonely, to see that kid sitting at the lunch table that nobody wants to sit by. We want to train these arrows to go out and see people's hearts like Jesus see them. I had to have a little talk with myself yesterday about this same sort of scenario. My whole day, I had it planned as usual, and as usual, it did not go to plan. And the reason it didn't go to plan is because I was on my phone talking to people probably 80% of the day. At 3 o'clock, my phone was pretty much dead because I was talking on it. I didn't accomplish hardly anything that I had on my list that day. But at about 3 o'clock, after I'd probably had 8 30-minute phone calls at least during the day, it was like I had to talk to myself. It was like the Lord was like, bro, today was successful, and it ain't about you and what you did, but you talk to people about me. And so all those petty little things that you had on your list, they don't really matter. The relationships that you carry and how you're impacting the kingdom for me, whatever part I allow you to have in it, that's success, dude. It's a successful day. So at 3 o'clock, after I'd been anxious most of the day because I knew that I needed to have these conversations, right? But I also knew that I wasn't accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish. So at 3:30, it was just a reset. And the anxiousness went away because of the realized purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's real, no question about it. Talking about like wins with our kids, I automatically think all three of my children, I'm just super proud of them, no question. But one thing that specifically stands out in my head, Lexi, she was an all-state pole vaulter, went to state. She would have gone to state 4 years in a row, but COVID stole her sophomore year. But she did go to state as a freshman, so I wholeheartedly believe she would have been a 4-year state contender for pole vault. And I think about how proud I was during that time, but it pales into comparison how proud I was. And I know I've told y'all this story before, when she came home one day, and I think she was in the 9th grade, maybe. It might have been her freshman year. And there was a kid that was coming to class every day, and he was poor, and he was wearing his sister's shoes, and all the kids were making fun of him. And she came home and she said, "Dad, can we go buy him some shoes?" And I was like, "Absolutely."
Oh man, that's good.
Absolutely. And I said, "Find out what size he is the next day." And we went to Academy and bought him some shoes. And she was like, "Dad, I really don't want to give them to him and embarrass him in front of everybody." I said, "You need to take them to the office." And anyway, so she took them to the office, and they discreetly said it was an anonymous donator or whatever. Mm-hmm. And anyway, I just thought that was freaking just awesome. I mean, that just made me, you talk about the culture and the way your kids act, and seeing them serve and love and shine the light of Jesus in people's lives. It's powerful. It is so much more powerful than even the highest accolade of going to state and placing in state and doing all that, and in pole vault, and
that's really cool.
It's just no comparison,
right? But it is no comparison. Yeah. You're changing lives for Jesus. Yeah. I had a similar shoe story with one of my kids. That my oldest is a shoe. What do they call them? A shoe head,
shoe fiend.
Shoe fiend. Yeah, loves shoes, tennis shoes, Nikes. So for some reason she got entitled over something, like felt like she deserved something that she didn't deserve. 7th or 8th grade, and because we knew she loved shoes, it was over the top. Okay, her behavior and the punishment for it.
Okay, so at least the punishment matched the behavior.
It matched. So her punishment was, we went to Walmart and bought a $15 pair of shoes, ugly ones, and she had to wear them for 2 weeks to school.
Really?
And she had to seek out somebody that needed a pair of shoes and figure out their size and buy them a pair of shoes as well. And I don't think she's complained about, shoes again. I don't know if it was about shoes, but it was not a good moment for her.
It's a good lesson.
It was a good lesson.
It is a good lesson. I think about kind of just rounding out the whole culture discussion. It doesn't matter if it's in our homes. It doesn't matter if it's in our places of business. If we are taking a approach of of how can I be like Jesus? And I know that seems to be a theme in just about every I guess solution to every issue that we face in our lives. It's like, well, what would Jesus do? That's such a great, like whoever did the WWJD and put that on a bracelet and decided they wanted to give people a constant reminder of how they can pretty much resolve any type of situation in their life ultimately. Is it going to be an immediate fix for everything? No. Is it going to be a lasting overall solution to whatever problem that you might have in your life? It is. It truly is. He's our only real true hope. And if we are aligning our lives with the way that he lived his, then we're going to be living our lives in the right way. And Jesus led with love and humility. That's kind of the period dot end game. He led with love and humility. In John 13:34 through 35, it says, "A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another." And in Philippians 2:3, it says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves." So a culture that is rooted in love and humility is going to build all of the things that we need. It's going to build trust. It's going to build unity. It's going to build confidence. It's going to build everything that we need to feel emotionally and spiritually in order to work through the struggles that we're ultimately going to experience in life. If you have a leader that has poured in love, humility, pointing you to Jesus, it doesn't matter whether it's a team, whether it's home base, whether it's work. If you're doing that, you are building a culture that is ultimately going to withstand the tough things that we're all going to experience.
I think about, that's great. I think about those two verses that you said, John 13:34 and 35, and Philippians 2:3. The opposite of those are pride. And make no mistake that as men, that is how he attacks us, is with pride.
Yeah.
And so as leaders of our home and the ones responsible, us and our wives, or as us being responsible to create the culture in our home that points our kids to Jesus, there's one thing we need to eliminate, and it's pride. Thinking that it's the simple things, right? Yeah, I can create this punishment for my kid, and I know best for them. It's like, point it to Jesus. I can do this. I can set up these value systems. I can keep everybody in line. They can toe the line because I'm the dad, and I say, yeah, you have some power. Point it to Jesus. What would Jesus do? It's good.
This past Saturday, I went to a prayer breakfast in High Point, North Carolina, and I got to meet Kirk Cameron, and he was the keynote speaker there at the prayer breakfast, and he got up and talked about, he really honed in on pride and how prideful he was at a young age, and he was an atheist before he converted to Christianity, and he talked about pride a lot and how pride is the fall of mankind. So it's real. I know it's a struggle that I have, and I haven't met too many guys that don't struggle with pride.
Yeah.
It's pretty common.
It's a deep struggle, that I think most of us deal with on a day in and day out basis. But if you understand that pride will wreck your world, you can if you better turn from it as quickly as you recognize that you are operating within it.
How do you guys feel about saying, like, to your kids, I'm proud of you? Because we know what pride essentially for our own selves is and does. Is that a different thought process? Like, hey, you did great at that baseball game. I'm proud of you. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
What I think is, I think there's a fine line. It's kind of like pride's a double-edged sword. You absolutely want your children to know that you have admiration for their accomplishment. But the fine line is whenever the world revolves around your child and it becomes some form of idolatry, or you're just idolizing how amazingly good your child is, I think at that point it becomes twisted and sinful.
I feel like you got to make sure that when you tell them that you're proud of them for having a good game, you better tell them that you're proud of them when they have a bad game too.
That's great advice.
For how they acted. Is that what you're getting at? Like your attitude?
You need to find something to be proud of them about in the games where they had a bad game too. Because if you don't, then they're going to base all of what dad thinks I'm worth. They're going to base what dad is ultimately proud of it's a results oriented, performance based feeling that you gave dad. And if they think that I'm only proud of them whenever they hit a double in the gap, or they, score, 15, 20 points in a basketball game, or have a great volleyball game, or whatever, have good grades, name it, win the band competition, whatever, if that's the only time that they think I'm going to be proud of them, I have failed. I have failed, and I have created a mindset in them that's unhealthy. They think that they have to perform in order for me to
recognize them.
That's right.
That's a huge problem. A huge problem.
I think it's massive.
Kid sports.
There was one game I remember that I was just absolutely furious at my kid after the game, and Courtney and I really tried to point out, like, great job hustling. You had a great attitude, man. You're high-fiving, standing on the sidelines like maybe you're not even playing. Like, what kind of teammate are you? Like, are you building the other kids up around you? Are you making a difference in their lives? Whether your butt's on the field or not, doesn't matter.
And that's tough.
It is tough as a teenager.
It is.
It's like, I just want to play, dude.
That's right. I feel like I deserve to be on the field, and I'm on the bench.
That's right.
Well, how are you going to react to that? Are you going to feel like a failure? Are you going to have a bad attitude and it reflects poorly on your teammates and your coach? Are you going to do what no one would do and be the best cheerleader on the bench, have a good attitude, and when it comes time to work to get that spot back or to earn it, period,
Earn it.
earn it.
Leave no room for doubt if you want that spot.
Why did you get so upset?
My
that
son
one time?
was being lazy. He wasn't hustling on the field. He had a bad attitude. He was slumping his shoulders on the sidelines, standing away from people. It was one game, and oh man, the wrath. It was fortunate for him. I don't think. No, he did ride home with me and Mama, and we were both just like livid,
ripping him.
Yeah, it hadn't happened since. But those are the moments, and so we try not to tell them, like, I don't think I have to, like, really pay attention to it now, but I don't know if I tell my kids I'm proud of you. I'd say things like, great game, way to hustle, way to pick up your pitcher and encourage her, way to get the team together and pull the momentum back in your favor.
Do your kids ask, what'd you think about that game? Or
yeah.
Like mine do.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you think about this?
I think a lot of times, depends on the mood. I'll ask, like, you want dad or coach, or a little mix. And so it depends on where their headspace is, on what information that they want to receive. I can tell you all the things that you messed up and all the things that you did right.
Right.
Is that what you want to hear?
Exactly.
What do you do?
I think that I kind of gauge it. Sometimes I'll spin it right back. Like, well, what do you
How
think?
do you feel?
What do you think? And most of the time I'm like, I think you're spot on. I think you hit the nail on the head. And inevitably there was something that I wanted to be like, you remember this play? I want to say that, and I used to. I will say that
It's like a compulsion as a dad.
it is. It is, especially if you've played a lot of competitive sports and it's just kind of in your blood. You wanna be like, this one point might have changed the game.
Yeah.
But depending on where they're at, that's why I like bounce that question back a lot of times, because I want to see if she's in a headspace to be able to accept some constructive criticism without her feeling like dad just totally thinks that I suck.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want them to feel that way.
But and they will if we're not really, really calculated and careful.
Yes.
Because we know that negative feedback is deeply heard and like chewed on more so than positive feedback.
So negative feedback can be spun into the form of questions.
Yes.
How do you feel about this? You had this at bat. You went down 0-2 swinging at a curveball and a fastball that was a strike, and then you bounced back 2-2. How do you feel? What do you feel like? Do you feel like that was a good at bat? Do you feel like you missed some pitches? Now we spun where they can process that information on their own
without you even having to agree.
Yeah, you just stated what happened.
Right.
And what's cool is they most likely already know.
Right.
We don't have to point it out.
So that's what I was going to say. You don't have to agree in that moment. Mm-hmm. You just got to listen.
Yeah.
And that's hard. It just takes a lot of failure. It takes a lot of failure and screwing it up and doing it all wrong.
Yeah.
And ultimately realizing how you made your child feel in that moment because you did open your mouth. Another verse that really speaks to me is Proverbs 18:21, and it's the tongue has the power of life and death. The tongue has the power of life and death. Proverbs 18:21. What we tell our kids, what we tell our employees, what we tell our coworkers, what we tell our wives, anybody that we're having an interaction with and speaking to, it has the power of life or death. Are you speaking life into your kids? Are you speaking life into your coworkers?
What do people feel after we speak to them, after you speak to them? Are you speaking life to where they have you could just break it down to endorphins. When you gush on somebody and you give them Jesus and you build them up, you're raising their energy level. If you're negative to them and you tell them things that they did wrong, that takes their energy away. And how do we make people feel on a daily basis?
Are you improving people's days, or are you potentially ruining their day?
And that doesn't always mean that we're just all rainbows and butterflies with people. I think you can be lovingly honest with them as well and still build them up.
But that takes a culture of being loving and being honest. It's not a one-off. You don't have that conversation with somebody and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you don't.
We just met and you decide that you want to go ahead and give me some criticism on something that you just saw and you don't even know me.
Ain't
It's
working.
like it ain't gonna be taken well.
No.
You know, I mean, we have to show via the culture that we create in whatever realm of life that we're in, and then we can have the opportunity to have those tougher discussions in love and in humility. And hey, I screw this up all the time too. And hey, I know this might sound like I don't love you, but I love you deeply. And I've shown you that over the course of the last whatever. And that's when you can have those difficult conversations that might have otherwise turned them away from you or ruin their day. But because they know you and you've shown them that it's important that they know that you love them and that you know that you suck at a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, we all do. I think I want to speak directly to dads for a second out there that because we just said that this is pretty much an epidemic, performance-based love. So guys, if you realize that that's something that you do, I think it's very important that if you feel the conviction of the Lord for that, to fix it now. That's our job as dads, is to lead our families and make sure that our kids are led in a way that point them to Jesus. And the thing that we can do today is apologize. When our kids get home from school, if there's something that's pointing out, that the Lord's pointing out to you, like, man, you do this. Like, this is you. Apologize to them. Tell them why you're apologizing to them for basing your love, even if it wasn't intentional, but that may be how they feel. And you can tell by your kid's reaction on what they're looking for from you on maybe what you've been doing. So I just encourage you to apologize to them. Tell them you're sorry and you're going to work on it. Man, our kids are so malleable and forgiving. If with honest apologies, they're going to be like, Dad, I love you and I forgive you. Isn't that awesome?
And it could be, you're so right. Like that one conversation could change the whole trajectory of the culture in your home.
Yeah.
And I believe that if we can own that and own that we've been operating in this the wrong way, and we still do it wrong. Like I make mistakes all the time.
There's games where I can only think about what I want to tell my kid.
Mm-hmm.
I screwed up.
We do. We screw it up a lot, but we do have the opportunity to fix it. And you're right. They are so forgiving.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where I would say that if that's you, and it certainly has been me, and if it's you, go start fresh. Start fresh, apologize, let your family know, let your coworkers know, let your employees know. We're about to switch up the trajectory of the way things operate.
It'll be a little
here.
different around here.
That's right.
For the good.
That's right. It's gonna be different. We're gonna kick negativity to the side here. We're just gonna speak positive. We're gonna be awkwardly positive. Mm-hmm. Awkwardly, like
it's gonna feel awkward for a little while.
It is and before you know it, you're gonna have a meeting. You're gonna have a discussion with your family, and they're going to maybe do what they used to do or what the family used to do, and maybe they're going to sit down at the dinner table and there's going to be a moment of negativity creeping in, and they're just going to catch it. They're going to be like, oh, wait, that's a negative. I'm not even going to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's when you know.
That also shifts your brain. It changes the way that your brain works
It absolutely
when you practice it.
That's when you know the culture is changing. That's when you know that things are improving. When they catch that, and you see them catch it, or you catch it, and you're like, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
That's not going to help down the road. And again, as we continue to create that, and as we show consistency in the fact that we're going to be positive, we're going to speak life, we're going to walk in humility, we're going to love. The fruits of the Spirit, the fruits of Jesus are going to ooze out of us. And we're going to live in that vein, and then we're going to live in that life. And as you do, and as you continue to live that way, a new culture is created. And it is awesome. And the ones that aren't operating in that same realm, the other people that you feel like are, performance based, love, leading out of fear, they stick out like a sore thumb. And nobody wants to be a part of it. They want to be a part of the culture where they can thrive, have fun, be joyful, make mistakes, and it's okay. All of those things.
I think we all know people. Think about who in your life that when you see them, man or woman, and you leave, then you talk to them and you leave them, you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. They made me feel so good.
100%.
Like, be that person.
Yeah.
Be that person. Practice it. You have to practice it. It doesn't come natural to a lot of people. Some people it does. Some people it's just a God-given gift. It's like, this person was put on this earth to make you feel better. It's like, I don't have it. But
putting some of those people in your life certainly will help you get closer.
That's right.
If this is something that encouraged you today, encourage someone with it. Start building a culture that ultimately is going to push people and point people and shine a light for Jesus. That's all we're trying to do here. And we just want to follow him and plant seeds for him. And so go out, kick the day in the face, and we'll catch you on the next one.